because when I taught, it was something like 12 hours in a row.
Jeez.
And then sometimes I would throw up. I was so physically exhausted because we had to travel also to the university.
How do you manage to keep your mind fresh, you know? By the time you're 20 students?
I know. My limit is the 13.
13.
On the 13, I explode. The first one after the 13, that's not a good project. I just lose it. I know. It's very clear number.
We have 12 here per student.
So it's right. It's very wide.
It's right there. It's right there.
Right before the explosion point.
Okay, so usually people come in a little bit late, so I think you probably start around 6, 45, so people will come. In some of the great communities, Artemis, the two who you met at the party.
Ah, yes.
They mentioned us. Also my final friend.
Okay. Yes. We laughed so much because we didn't know
Oh,
so that came like, no. So I was mentioning to somebody about this Greek girl working at so they said, what do you mean she's working at?
What do you mean she's an employee? What do you mean?
We're still laughing about that one. It's like 3 years ago. The kid. It's a very nice, very impressive place, the Columbia. We've never been there before.
First time. Yeah.
A city, like a city.
It's like a city, yeah. It feels like cramped for us compared to like schools. Also, let's say in Caliber, you see that it's much bigger. Or Princeton, the density is so low. One person.
Oh, really? Yeah?
The school is pretty big for 30 or 40 people total, actually, counting staff. It's very small. So this one we feel a little cramped. But at the same time, some people say, well, that's a good thing.
Yeah. More
Generate
energy.
friction
Yeah.
and energy. Did you go up to studios?
Yes,
Okay.
we passed from Hilary studio very briefly, of course. Yes, it's only on this building, the architecture, that's it.
Only this building.
So it's very packed.
It's very packed. This building used to be a library.
Yeah.
So it's basically an architecture school, basically placed on top of a library. So that's why you get actually much less space for studios and all equipment and everything than you actually get from a library. The library here is the biggest in the world for architecture.
Seriously?
In staff competition with the CCA, CCA is also quite good. The archive.
That's great. You have this resource.
We have Piranesi drawings from the 15th century.
Here?
And all sorts of manuscripts from like the Baroque period.
And you can see stuff,
you can
of course.
So-called Avery Classics, so you have to make an appointment, and then they'll bring them out to you, and then
Of course,
tell the story.
Amazing. Have a sip.
So you guys are meeting tomorrow, right?
Yeah, already. Marianna is so happy to go back to our kid. She's counting the hours.
They're not kind of
I'm very happy to see the. No, actually, it's enough. It's enough as a break. So, but I'm always happy to be traveling, especially here. So much to see.
Do you get to speak with other faculty maybe also besides Hilary?
No, unfortunately, because Amanda is not in town, so I don't know what to do.
I've seen your work is hanging.
They printed some stuff on the wall, yeah.
It looks beautiful.
Yeah, it does.
I didn't know
I haven't seen so nice prints. I want to take them home,
Just do so today.
Yeah,
just in case they stay there. They look really nice.
They look good.
Coming downstairs. Wait, this looks familiar.
Yeah.
It's their work.
Yeah. It's amazing to see our house. I mean, we've never seen the picture so big, but especially our house because we just work and live in it. It's so amazing to see it in good prints.
Are you guys
prints. Hello. Hi.
Hello. Hi. How are you?
What's up? So we didn't call you on Sunday.
Sorry?
We arranged to meet on Sunday, but we didn't call you.
Ah, yes, I know. Never mind. Yeah.
To meet you in Athens next week.
Yes. Ah, you're coming?
Yeah, I'm coming on Friday.
Ah.
You gonna be there?
No, I'm gonna leave on. Wait. So you're coming Friday?
Yeah. We'll be there whole next week.
I'm gonna be in Belgium, but Marianna is there.
Okay, maybe we'll arrange to meet.
Yeah.
Have a chance.
Yeah.
Leaving tomorrow?
Yes, tomorrow night.
You concentrate for that.
Okay, okay, okay.
Okay,
Okay, no, it's okay, but you're staying a bit.
for dinner.
Okay.
Should be fun. But here, they do it here now. That's cool. Okay. No. These are super nice. I mean, you can see that they actually like what they do.
Yeah.
That's not the case necessarily every time. Like they are like the fourth pair we get in the last 5 or 6 years. And some of them actually get really good. They're from Pantazis in the Venice guy. He's the one that actually is in charge of the events section. So the nice guy, perfect, pretty good. There's a lot of climbers here, as you can imagine. So, people who are obsessed with climbing up a ladder. Being killed. In the past, we've had a few that have used that position for a further purpose, let's say. And that's kind of, in that sense, it's also a school is a little bit bigger. Because this criticism that doesn't get so. So Monday and Thursday is when they teach second year and third year. That means all the faculty for second year and third year are here. That was supposed to Wednesday, Friday. Right? Wednesday and Friday is only first year. So we teach them first year, Monday, Wednesday. And
3 days a week. But only for 4 hours a day? So half a day.
it's basically after.
So you can basically after
1:30 or so. It starts at 2. It's very demanding. I was speaking with Marianna, architectural and he told me he taught at Rice. He said, I'm not teaching on American schools again because the students are so demanding. So it's not the number of students, it's how demanding they are that makes student teaching so energy consuming. And just a little bit, they expect that it takes a little bit. With 3 times a week for us, times a week for 6 years.
Yes.
Okay, all right. You're both going to talk, right?
So yes.
And she's sitting there, okay.
This is going to come.
Okay. All right.
Keep it clean for you.
Okay, I think we'll go ahead and get started. All right, everyone, I think we'll get started. I want to welcome everybody back from break. I hope everyone had a good break. And tonight, it's my pleasure to introduce, and also I will be doing the response after the lecture, to introduce Point Supreme, who's here from Athens. So Point Supreme was founded by Konstantinos, Pantazis, and Marianna Rentzou in 2008. After a decade of study and work abroad in London, Rotterdam, and Tokyo, among other places, they returned to Athens with the intention of critically rethinking design and the making, and I think also remaking of architecture in the context of the contemporary city and their city, Athens. Although I think it is safe to say the Greek city is not their only influence or what is in their imagination when they are working in a local context. Their work integrates careful research into architecture, landscape, and urban design, known primarily for their richly worked collages, which draw, like their name, on art history, specifically collapsing surrealistic effects and painterly qualities to reconcile the past, which is inescapable and ever-present within Athens. But also, I think importantly, to understand a kind of making of a new contemporary, which plays between representation of their context and also that idea of what is real or a reality. Their work and they themselves have been internationally recognized, and particularly of interest, Jimenez Lai, founder of Bureau Spectacular, included Point Supreme in his 2015 exhibition at Chicago's Graham Foundation and subsequent publication series of the same name, Treatise Why Write Alone, where he situated them alongside other offices of their generation, such as Young and IATA, First Office, and Fake Industries. Within this publication, writers included Kirsten Gears, who's teaching here currently, offered that their exuberance is a new kind of resistance, and Pier Paolo Taburelli carefully observed and locates their work through qualities from other painters such as Magritte, Hockney, Hopper, to also Madeleine Vriesendorp. One thing I'm particularly impressed with beyond the collages and their built projects alone, which would be more than enough, is that within it also there is a kind of deep research and understanding to things like particular types from a particular 5- and 6-story scale housing, which seems to permeate their work and show up in different places, to something simple as the table, which I can say we had a wonderful conversation this afternoon with my studio around 2 tables, modestly reconstructed for an hour-long discussion about drawing, which was fantastic. Most recently, they were included in a remaking of sorts of the 1988 MoMA Deconstructivist show, held here at the Aermonti Gallery in New York this past winter, retitled Reconstructivist Architecture, where they were one of 13 offices exhibited alongside Bernard Schumi and Peter Eisenman. They've lectured and given workshops all over Europe and exhibited in New York, Paris, Montreal, Mexico City, Milan, London, and Florence, as well as participated in the inaugural Chicago Architecture Biennial with the collage series Playfulness of the Real, and exhibiting their 8 visions for the future of Athens at the 12th Venice Biennial. Point Supreme's visually obsessed and vibrant designs embrace contradictions and transcend scale. There's a lot that can be said about their work, and I'm looking forward to the response. And while they may be working under a kind of present condition of austerity, their work is anything but. So please welcome Point Supreme.
Thank you so much, Hilary, for that very impressive introduction. Thank you so much for coming to see this talk tonight, to listen to this talk. We're honored to be invited to show our work to you tonight. Okay, so let's start with a small introduction to Athens, the place where we operate, because that's very significant for the work we have been doing. So Athens is, first of all, just to make sure everybody knows, Athens is the capital of Greece, sitting at the southern edge of Europe. This is the first drawing we did of Athens. So Athens is a very completely urbanized territory, which is framed by mountains on 3 sides, and in this surface of concrete, only a few hills stick out. So it's the only exception to this urban lava. This is the first drawing of Athens we did. You see there's no empty voids, there's no parks, for example. It's a very continuous surface, and this is what it used to be. So this is a very old drawing of the hills. This is the Acropolis hill, the Parthenon up there, the Lykavitos hill, which is actually the tallest, the mountains that frame the city on the 3 sides. And in fact, this is the first settlement of Athens, of modern Athens, under the Acropolis hill. And this is the image of the city from the plane these days. So this is what you see. So this is the mountains framing the city, the Olympic works from 2004, more recently, and then the coast connecting to the Aegean Sea and the islands to the end. And if you look at a map of the center of the city, this is what you'll see. This is the Acropolis with the Parthenon on top, the Lykavitos hill, the tallest one, the marble Olympic Stadium here, and generally you see that everything is a surface of concrete. apart from these exceptions of hills. And this is what Athens is communicated with. This is a typical postcard where you see that all you get is the Acropolis, the Parthenon, sitting on this beautifully illuminated hill, and everything else is kind of erased, so that you don't see the city at all in the popular communication of Athens. Same if you look at any kiosk selling tourist souvenirs, you always see temples and statues and a bit of islands, but never the actual city, never what Athens really is, which is this in-between thing between ancient remains. And if you look at any typical place, neighborhood of Athens that doesn't have the benefit of an exception, like a hill or a temple or something, this is what actually happens. You get this continuous urbanization made up of the same module always, the apartment building that is always the same, following strict regulations such as having the setback on the top floors. So this is actually what Athens is made of, the modern Athens. Or here you see, for example, the very characteristic profile of these buildings. They're called polykatikias, meaning multi-residence houses. And again, if you go to the periphery where the city dissolves on the mountains surrounding the city, this is what happens. So you see that it's the same kind of formless lava that makes up the city. It doesn't have a shape other than the one that's given to it by what's happening around it. We have always been looking at representations of Athens, existing representations, and this is one that we find very successful or very close to what the way we read the city. This is a painting by Spiros Verikios from Spiros Vasiliou from the 80s, where he basically shows the city through its components, through what is important. So you have the open sky with a very significant light, sun or moon. You have the mountain framing the city. You have the urban fabric made up of these 6 floors of polykatikias, multi-residencies. And then you always have a kind of outdoor space, perhaps private, where life actually takes place most of the year since it's so warm. And if we zoom out again, we'll notice that Athens here is really at the center of a circle, that is the country. It's really at the center of the country. And you see that there's all these connections to the islands. So in our view, Athens is part of this archipelago of islands, literally connected by boats in the same way that the rest of the islands are connected to each other. Here you see, for example, this is Athens again with its coast, and the boats connecting it to islands that are just a halfway ride, islands that are half far away from the city. And you see that actually Athens has a coast. It's like an island. It goes all around the coast. So if you take the car from the center and you hit the coastline, it takes you about 20 minutes by car, and this is where you get. It's a beautiful situation with the first islands already seen in the horizon. And if you drive a little bit further, down or up along the coast, you get these amazing beaches, really beautiful, but actually very casual and informal and not celebrated at all. In fact, very disrespected, because Athenian people are very spoiled with the islands around, so they never bother to think of these beaches as part of their city. They don't use them. This is a part of a study we once did, collecting photographs this is real photographs of beaches on the Athens coastline that nobody knows, or some of them nobody knows about, so we also are in the habit of trying to discover as many of them as possible. And this is something also for you to realize how close Athens, with its Acropolis sitting on the top, is to any kind of island capital. This is a very low-res picture, but the relationship is very easy to get. So every island town is built under the Acropolis or church, sitting on the tallest hill of the place, and then there's just the city below and the sea around. And if you look at the architecture of the islands, it's also very similar to the architecture of the Greek cities of Athens, because it's very simple, it's very pragmatic, it's not very complex in the way it's designed, but then beauty just happens in a very informal way.
This is the interior of a Greek church on an island, and this is a space that we really like a lot. It's very harmonic without being strict or symmetrical, like it looks like it should be. So there is so much complexity in this space. You see here the mechanism of the candle, and then there is the two images of the scents that are not the same. Nothing is aligned. Even the tiles are not very well done, but there is so much richness in so much complexity in this space, but at the same time so much freedom for the visitor to feel to breathe, let's say. And likewise, this is a religious ceremony. It's the baptism of Jesus Christ, and it happens on a very humble infrastructure, on a wooden pier. And a very few elements really matters in this event, let's say, of how far away you are from the water, how wide is the pier, how close you are to each other, and how far away you are from the priest that holds all these religious symbols, and then the distance from the boat. So the spatial experience there is very intense without having a lot of design, just very basic principles. The same happens here. This is a public space in an island, where you see that the distinction between the two spaces happens with a very minimum means. It's just a white color with and lines, circles and lines. Okay, you can see here. Oh, sorry. Like here, you see that even the grid is not. It's not very strict. It gets adjusted whenever it meets the tree. And actually, the people in the island have to paint this space every 2 weeks during the tourist period. So actually, there is a rituality behind a social event behind this space as well. And this is a gate in a house that someone spontaneously did. So actually, it's a very complex object. It's a multifunctional complex. It's a gate, and at the same time is a sculpture and the antenna of the house itself. So going back to Athens, this is Anaphiotica. It's one of the first areas that were built under Acropolis. And actually it was built from people from Anaphi Island that they came to Athens to work as builders. So you have this feeling of being on an island and while you are in the very center of the city.
Mm-hmm. So tonight we're going to show you some examples of our work in a few different categories. The first one is this one. It's projects based on the existing reality as found. So the goal of these projects is not to overcome that reality, but to colonize it. In other words, in a way through symbolically or programmatically or through form, to exploit the given reality, the found reality, and to reveal it. These projects in the end become a new way of seeing and of animating that initially found reality. So this is part of the first project we did when we went back to Greece to establish our office. That was a very complex or rich project with many different parts. It was called Unbuilt, or the legitimization of the undervalued. The first part of that project was a triptych, this one, which was called Lykavitos on Fire. So Lykavitos is the tallest hill in Athens, sitting in front of Acropolis hill. You see, of course, the hills used to be even bigger, longer, but the city eventually consumed part of them. So that was the 2008, the time just before the crisis, where every summer there were fires put up in different natural places around the city, so as for development to happen afterwards. So in this triptych, we wanted to awaken people, the public, to show this kind of hidden tendency, where if something wouldn't happen to stop this tendency, then even the center of Athens, the remaining of the Lykavitos hill, might be consumed by polykatikias. So this picture was published in the newspapers, so it showed to us that this kind of statements have a matter, like they have an impact. The second part of this project, Unbuilt, dealt with the polykatikia, so this typology of residential building that makes up the cities in Greece completely. So first we made this Lego model of it because it's a very simple, iconic, basically shape. We proposed to Lego to make this building. To produce it, to sell it, but we never got an answer about that. And we were looking at different representations of the city. So, for example, this is again a series of stamps that you get in Greece, showing marble statues and masks and all that. So we also addressed the stamp company of Greece and proposed to make stamps that instead of the Acropolis and the temples would show just polykatikias. This was also rejected. And then we made a series of case studies, of models of polykatikias. It was 100 polykatikias, because we said, basically what we said was that if polykatikia is the only type that gets built in Greece, then any kind of solution to urban problems, we have to find the solution through this form, disguised in polykatikias. So we made this series of polykatikias, each one of which addressed a different kind of problem, or tried to test the limits of the type, like how far can we go, when does it stop being a polykatikia. For example, in this case, it was one of the most extreme ones, which is a polykatikia disguised as Lykavitos hill. So there was, for example, public spaces found in these experimental models, or forms proposed, or different programs or public spaces. And this project was also published in the most popular Sunday newspaper supplement. So there was a very big article about it and a discussion. So we were also very surprised because basically it proved, this kind of reaction proved that these projects were indeed very relevant to the people, to the common people of Athens. And years later, we kind of came back to that Unbuilt initial project by another project that was kind of continuing it, which was this. It's a real tourist campaign for Athens called Only in Athens. We did it in collaboration with a friend, a poet and a philosopher, who came up with the name. So the idea was to talk about Athens, to communicate Athens, to advertise Athens as well, not through what is so special, unique about it, such as the Acropolis, which is already what's being capitalized on, but through what is actually very banal or generic in Athens, but at the same time very original in Athens. So the logo of the campaign was this contemporary metope, made up of all the different building types that you casually see. So next to the remains of a temple, you always get the polykatikia. There's always a Byzantine church somewhere around, and then there's always a kiosk very close by, and eventually a beach umbrella. And we did a series of images about Athens that were printed on T-shirts and on objects. So this one was about, for example, the framing of the city that you always get through Polykatikia, or it was about the sculptural qualities of it, or secret magical places like the outdoor cinemas in courtyards, stray dogs sleeping on statue heads. This is a real photograph. Resist sprayed on columns of the academy in Athens, also a real picture from the riots. Athens as part of the island network, a new map, typical balconies with their sunshades. And eventually we also made this object, a marble Polykatikia, that is now being sold among marble statues of goddess Athena or Poseidon, etc. So this is a part of the launch of a picture of a launch of the first exhibition we did with the different objects. There was also a mosaic of Polykatikia and some of the T-shirts. And part of that project also was this, a very important image for us. It's called Athens as an Island. So it's again this idea that Athens is exactly the same as any typical island town. This is kind of a real picture of Athens, but we replaced all the concrete Polykatikia building types with island whitewashed architecture. So this image became very popular in Athens. It became the cover of a Summer City guide in 2013, and even more, we started seeing people using this image, printing it and using it. For example, in the summer, when people would close their shops for holidays, they would print and put this picture on their glass door, saying, "We'll be back in September." So people really started to use it. That was also part of the campaign. It's a tablecloth for the city, because every island has a tablecloth that you get on your taverna with the beer. When you order your cold beer and the Greek salad, you always have this map of your island, so you can plan your next swimming excursion. So we did the same for Athens.
The next project is Athens by Hills, and this specific drawing is called Tribute to Madelon Brizadorp. There we replace the New York skyscrapers with Lycabettus Hill and Acropolis. Lycabettus is a male word in Greek, and it's the tallest hill in Athens, while Acropolis is a female word. And both of them, they bend over their child, which is Acropolis, Polykatikia, I'm sorry. And then around them, there are symbols from Greece, like the ancient theater and the column, a boat, and an olive tree. And this is a postcard from our collection. We very often try to find old postcards because they reveal the collective subconscious, the very essence of the city. So this is a firework event that happens between Lycabettus and Acropolis. And this is the image that we produce. Actually, we study each of the hills in Athens. We try to... I'm going first to this drawing. We research how tall each hill is, how you can get there, what is the context around it, what is the existing program there, and we try to emphasize what was already there or to propose something relevant. And actually the very essence of this project was that the Acropolis is a part of a network of hill, and it's not by itself. So this is the main image that we produce, that you see all the hills exaggerated with a program on top of them. For example, we added a Ferris wheel on Lycabettus Hill that is in a constant movement, in a total contrast to Acropolis that is mute and stable. While in this image we wanted to show all the richness of possible typologies of hills. This is the model that we did. Actually, we took the liberty to show Athens as a concrete box surrounded by the mountains, like Konstantinos told you at the beginning. And then it's the grid of the urban fabric and all the hills exaggerated with their programs on top. And again, this project was picked up by the local newspapers. It was something that the people really didn't realize that exists in Athens. Here it says another way that a city, I'm translating the title, it says that another way to create a city friendly and anthropogenic.
Human, yeah.
Human, yeah. And the next project is called the 100 Views of Acropolis, and its starting point is these drawings by Hirosike and Hokusai. These ones are by Hirosike. They are called 100 Views of Mountain Fuji. Actually, we think in these drawings, we think that we see Mountain Fuji, but what we actually see is the life around it, the contemporary life of Japan back then. And we wanted to do the same for Athens. So we use Acropolis as an alibi to show what the contemporary city of Athens really is. So you see here Acropolis through a park. And this one is a typical roof terrace of a hotel with a swimming pool and Acropolis at the back. So actually, we wanted to show Athens through different kind of programs and seasons and times. And so this one is the Olympic Stadium, while next to it is some athletic sports close to Acropolis. Again, the Polykatikias, and in the back is Acropolis, or the ancient Agora and the train, the metro in front of it. The ancient theater of Athens and a view from Kolonaki area. So we collaborate with many important photographers in Athens, and this project is still going on. And the next one is the marble mural, which is an hymn to marble. It's a 10 by 2 meters mural. We were asked by a commercial exhibition to choose any material we wanted and to do something with it. So we thought that the most banal and typical material in Greece is marble, and it's usually used as a luxurious surface for kitchens or bathrooms. So what we wanted to show is that marble has thickness, and it's it's an organic material. So we selected marbles from different origin, different texture, color, and history. And actually, we were the pieces that we chose had some kind of defaults, like this one here or this one. So there were pieces that they had no market value, let's say. But for us, this kind of moments, they were the starting point of a narration, of a story to tell. Then we compose these pieces in an interesting way, we think. This is with the different textures and different marble pieces. And then we apply to them different kind of techniques, like laser cut and CNC and digital printing, but also traditional painting and sculpting. So you see all the different layers that they were superimposed to each other. And this is the final result. And then we exhibited the whole mural as a billboard. And we did this metal structure taken from a typical advertisement. These are some details. This marble is called California, but actually it's from Casablanca, so they name it in a different way to give more value to this marble. That's why we printed on them this gold. While this one, the texture of the marble looked like an animal, like an elephant skin. Mm-hmm. Another detail.
Mm-hmm. So this is now another category of projects that promote public space. The purpose of these projects is to return the cultural role to public space that is no longer there, and also to turn them into a destination. So usually the things that are in focus is the form and the experience and the identity of these places. For example, this one is a square in the center of Athens. Here is Acropolis up there. You see that it's a very narrow space, like an outdoor room, used as a parking at the moment. There was a competition announced for it, asking architects to redesign it, to turn it into a square again. So we were sure that what was going to happen by most architects is the typical thing where you kind of design basically a hard surface and then you add a little bit of nature to compensate or to decorate it. This is from the ground level. And so what we wanted to do, what we decided to do was to make a project out of nature, because that's what's missing, that's what's necessary, and also to give it a kind of urban scale, a monumental scale, so that it could be seen from the Acropolis, visible from the Acropolis, so it would have this kind of urban effect. So we did a project which was all about nature. So there was the palm trees. We decided to plant palm trees in order to get this kind of scale in height, and also to plant the floor, completely the floor. So we kind of thought of it as a building made of nature. So this is some sketches from the process. Also, the square is surrounded by, it's a very typical Athenian place where the buildings in the center are empty over the ground floor. So we decided to also add balconies and turn these empty office buildings into residential. So this was one of the main images of the competition, where you see one of the added balconies here, and then this kind of nature project, or where nature is treated like a building and in fact like an icon. This is the ground floor experience. There was all sorts of aromatic Mediterranean plants also, so it was a very sensual experience. We won't go into too much detail tonight. Then here is the second example in these rooms category. This is another square. It's really at the very center of the city, so it's really between two of the main avenues, streets in Athens. This is one of the totally self-initiated projects. So most of the projects we just do as a reaction to a particular urban condition or problem. Sometimes we can fit them into a brief. So the previous one, there was a competition eventually announced for that square. This is something that we just did. So you see, it has a very beautiful setting, this square, because there's very beautiful trees and shade, which is not very common. But otherwise, it's a very miserable place that nobody uses. In fact, it's a junkie spot. So we always were looking at this square, and we noticed that there's this rectangular space in the middle with these very small recesses of 2 steps. And another problem in Athens is that there's no water in the center of the city. So we decided to just fill in this rectangular space with water, so as to turn it into a shallow pool. In this way, also to return the water and make a statement about this lack of water downtown. This project was also so much published in the press, and so many people got so seriously interested in it and wanting to make it. In the crisis, there's a lot of city initiatives of Athenian people that try to do things on their own. And some of these initiatives contacted us, and one of them, they went and found a sponsor, which would be a German company making pools, that offered to do this pool for free for the city, with the condition that the city would just maintain it. That's why we did this model of the pool, because we were invited to the city hall to present it to the mayor of Athens. And the mayor was very excited and interested to do it. So this project went very close to being realized. But eventually it stopped because it got there was strange bureaucracy about it, so laws that wouldn't allow the place to change. So that was the end of it. And another room, another example of this category is this. This is the city square, the city hall square of Athens. So this is the city hall, in fact, here. So this is also in the very center of the city. Is a very big square that, as you see, it's impossible to use it because there's no shade and it's a hard surface. And in fact, the fountain is usually not working. So this is a very rare picture of it shown in use. So it's a really depressing, no fun area to be in. So we decided to contrast this situation by turning the whole surface into a lawn with sprinkles so that it would immediately become the opposite, like a fun place that you would like to be in. Imagine how hot it is in the summer months in the city center. Also published a lot. And the last example in this category of ambitious public spaces or public spaces with an identity is this one. It's not a square, it's a street. So it's actually this street. It's called Sigrou Avenue. This is the main street that takes you from the center of Athens to the beach. So to us, it's always been in our minds. It's a very magical place. It's a very magical road because it gets you straight onto the Aegean archipelago. You really head towards the islands. But it's something that you don't realize when you're using the street, because this is the existing condition. What happens is that there's a lot of visual noise, how it's called, like billboards and things like that. And then there's no public space in the middle. You cannot walk. There's no pavement in the middle. And in fact, at the end of the street, there's a few trees and billboards, so you don't even look at the water when you're heading at it. So we made this image to kind of undo that situation. We took out 2 street lanes and added a wide public space in the middle and proposed basically that water-related iconography and programs would invade this street, so as that you're always reminded of the fact that you're heading to the islands when you're using this street. A lot of our friends said that they were very shocked by this image because they use this street every day to go to work and they never thought about it. The fact that simple to us, very obvious fact that they're heading to the islands.
Okay, the next series of project is extending the public space in order to make the collective experience more intense. This one is called the Athens Heaven. There was an art biennale in Athens called Heaven, and we took the initiative to send a proposal, but actually it was an urban proposal. We calculated how much green space is missing from the citizens in the center of Athens. Now it's something like 2.7 square meters per citizen, while in the European cities the average is 7 square meters. So we calculate how much green space is missing, and we use this surface to undo another problem of the city, which is the connection of the city center Acropolis to the sea. Actually, Athens used to have a very strong relationship to the city, but now it's totally lost. And actually, the boundaries of this park refer to a very specific municipality in Athens, in Kalithea. It's called Kalithea, which means good view. Yeah. So this is the main image that the main drawing that we did, that shows Acropolis to the back, here, and then this park that connects it to the sea, while this one is an image from this magical space. And then again, this project was picked up by the newspapers. One of the most popular, let's say the most advertised project of our office. It says, "That's how I won my city. We are making a program for the mayor." And the next project is Six Dogs Cultural Center, which for us is like a piece of heaven of the previous projects in the center of Athens. So this is the garden of Six Dogs, and this is the buildings on top. And this is how it used to be. So it was there were 5 bars and cafes, one next to each other. So it was a total mess. And the owners decided to work together, to collaborate, and to make one big cultural center. They came to us, but they didn't have any budget. So the budget they had was like 200 euros per square meter, something like $200 per square meters. So it was. The only thing we could use was to paint the space. So, and to clarify, because the urban presence of Six Dogs is very unique. It's a whole street in the very center of Athens. And behind it is this urban courtyard that was totally inaccessible back then. So we applied a color strategy from white to gray and then black, and we propose a program that has different kind of daylight condition. So
and density.
Yeah, and density. So first it was the gallery, then it was the cafe, the geek space, and then the club. So this is the front. The entrance of Six Dogs, and this is the drawing that we did. So the gallery, cafe, geek space, and club, and this is the image of the spaces, the interior.
So the only thing we could afford for this project was to buy paint. So everything was based on that, and the furniture you see in the pictures is the furniture that the previous shops used to have, but we just recycled them to make new furniture and painted them in the corresponding color.
Yeah. That's okay. So this one, for example, is the beds that it's these beds that they used to have. We cut them and we did them. It was the cells of the new bars. And then we did this big billboard that is very common in New York, but in Athens it's not. So it intensifies the urban dimension of Six Dogs. It's a very popular place in Athens. And this is the section. Actually, this is how you go to the garden. So you go under the building to this garden, and so actually you go from a totally desaturated space to this very colorful and green garden. This is the access. And then this is the garden behind it. Actually, what we did for the garden of Six Dogs is that we persuaded the clients not to do anything. Actually, to only bring the garden to its natural condition, to reveal the topography and the section of the garden itself. So this is an image that the New York Times had that says that it's a place that you should visit in Athens. And then this is an image of the garden from above. And the next project is called Athens Ferry, where we took we proposed to take the upper part of a ready-made object of a ferry boat and to position it on top of existing rooftops in Athens, creating in that way a public space that it's missing from a ready-made object that actually it's very unique in Athens.
You can see the Square Pool project and the Theatre Square and the Falero Pier, a few projects around.
Oh yeah, this is the Falero Pier, this is the Square Pool. Where is it?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And this is a typical, this is how a ferry boat is. Actually, this is a deck of a ferry boat, which actually works as a public space itself. And the next project is a competition that we won for a landmark on a pier. This is the pier, and it's in front of the new National Library and Opera in Athens. It was built by Rentzou. Actually, this is the biggest project that happens in Athens, and this pier is just in front of it. So they were asking for a landmark. And what we did, actually, we extended the brief of the competition itself to the whole Athenian coastline. So for us, the site was not just the pier, but it was all this unexploited coastline. So this is our proposal. Actually, we want to show first this. These are the other winning proposals that their main inspiration, let's say, was the fact that this landmark was close to the sea, all these wavy landmarks. While what we did was a very simple building. Actually, it's a canopy that provides shade. That it's, I mean, no public space can work in Athens if there is no space. There is no shade, and then there is this tribune that refers to the water activities in sea, and then we use a ferry boat as the extension of the pier itself. So this is the section of the building that you see the relationship between the building and the tribune and the ferry. And this is all the events that can happen in the space in between them. And actually, the idea came from an event that already happened in Athens like a few years ago. This is a theater performance on a ferry boat, and that was happening while the ferry was going from Athens to Hydra Island. And this performance was very, very successful. It was fully booked since many months ago, and we wanted to introduce this kind of experience to the day life, let's say, of the Athenians. So this is a view from the ferry towards the proposal. And we also propose water taxes. So this pier was the beginning of the starting point of water taxes, that they were taking the Athenians to the different beaches, because right now it's quite difficult to go. There is a lot of traffic jam, so we wanted to undo this situation. And actually, the iconography of the building was taken from the semiology of maritime structures, but also from Greek paintings. And this is a night view of the proposal. Again, this is how the media publish Falliro Pier. And the next image is our participation in Venice Biennale in 2012, where 8 of Athens Project were shown, and as an image standing on a podium. Each podium is different, and it refers to a specific aspect of the image, and then in between them there is a space or a symbols that highlights a specific aspect of a project or establish a new relationship. These are the 8 models we presented. This one, for example, is a square pool. This one is Athens Heaven, where we intensify the gate to this park. This one is a theater square, where we wanted to show this celebration of nature through this Lina Bobardi celebrative columns and symbols. And then a zoom again.
Mm-hmm. And these projects were all published, like Hilary mentioned earlier, in this book, Athens Projects. And also, what was even more surprising to us was that in 2014, we were included in the list of the 25 most influential people in the country. So we were very surprised. We were very surprised about it. But basically, it proves that this kind of initiatives that deal with public space in the city and the identity of the city is indeed very critical, and it can be very relevant. The last category of examples of projects we're showing you tonight is this. It's called The Playfulness of the Real. It's about realized projects. The first one is about shade, the problem of shade. It's a competition that we won in Tel Aviv, in Israel. It was an invited competition, in fact. They were asking for cheap solutions for shade in public spaces that is very lacking in Israel, like it is in Greece. So they were asking for very cheap solutions that could be replicated, that could be like multiplied and placed in lots of places. So we looked at the typical solution for shade in Greece, which we really like, which is this sunshades coming in very simple colors that all the polykateikias, all the balconies have. It was even part of the iconography of the old airport of Athens. You see it also on the islands. It's really, really standard. So we proposed a solution based on that, the typical cheap fabric, sunshade fabric, but placed in a graphic way. So actually the proposal was to have a module which was this. It's 5 meters by 10 meters. And then to replicate this module as many times as one needs according to the site. This was the competition site in a park, in order to gain a kind of monumental and landmark effect. Also very contemporary through the use of the graphic use of color. This was some of the playful, structural, very simple tests. So the point was that our proposal was so cheap that we could save money in order to propose program under the canopy. So what we proposed was not in our proposal in the given budget, very small given budget. Apart from the canopy itself, we could also buy or construct simple furniture that could accommodate different programs. So part of the competition entry was this, a series of images walking through, showing different programs happening, like having a tribune that is overlooking to an existing surface where people already use it for sports and things like that. We also placed a kiosk under it for refreshments, picnic tables for lunch, and a game area for elderly and a children's corner at the end. So eventually half of this, so the competition proposal was 6 modules, but they changed the site after we won and asked us to place the project in front of the Holland Design Museum outside Tel Aviv. So we built half of it, 3 modules. So we could afford to buy this table tennis table and a few furniture. Yes, and so this was the project from above. Recently, we decided to do a playground in Athens on our own initiative, because we're lacking playgrounds, and especially we're lacking playgrounds with imagination. So we started having some ideas about what it should be, and then we started contacting companies, asking for sponsorships, because of course we had no money to do it. And we got all negative replies about the concepts we had, but eventually we kind of accidentally got a positive reply for a sponsorship by a company that actually sells these very standard toys, plastic or wooden toys, that actually is what makes most of the playgrounds in the country. So it's this kind of object. So of course we said yes, and we found a municipality in Athens that was interested to give us a square to place it. So it's outside the center. They gave us this spot here. It's a circle which was available. So we changed the concept completely and just look at the catalog of available toys, and proposed this initially. So the idea was to put the toys together in a circle so that the children would eventually feel like they're playing together, sharing the same one toy and actually looking at each other while playing. After going through all the regulations and getting the permission, and talking with a company about the sponsored toys, this was the result. So this is the project these days. We're trying to get it built. So also a strategy we did was a kind of camouflage. So we tried by painting the toys in this way to kind of hide where the borders of its actual toy is, in order to make it look like one thing, one structure.
And also, as you can see, the circle is not a perfect circle. It's apart by lines, because the structure, we were not allowed to touch the toys that we would get from the company. But for us, this didn't matter. We adjusted the design in order to have this collective spatial experience.
Mm-hmm. Also, you have to think that it's very rooted into our culture to be together in circles and hold hands and touch each other while being public. Also in the press. While this one is Nadia, this is an apartment we did, a renovation of an apartment that we did. It's a very dense and sensual space. It's 2 floors. So what happened is that we, instead of dividing the program into rooms, we tried to let the program happen by accommodating it in structures and objects and devices that could control the relationship. So you can still see and experience each program from the other ones. So we were developing a catalog of these kind of constructions, each one of which has its own hidden references and carrying its own agenda, its own world according to what it wants to do. So it's a very complex, very rich synthesis of different things. In fact, the apartment is on 2 levels, and the 2 levels are also very opposite experiences. So this is the ground floor, which is a very marine-like experience. It's the public program, while on the top floor it's a much more earthly, warm experience, which is where the private places are, kind of the bedrooms. This is one of the drawings which tried to communicate or control these kind of relationships. It's very interesting because, in fact, in the space, all these constructions also work as viewing devices. They are kind of different frames. And you can already see that this project was very much influenced by one of the urban projects, Athens by Hills. While we were doing it, we realized that it's actually the same thing, where it's basically you have a continuous surface like the sea, and then you have these islands floating above. So I think this was the first time where we noticed this kind of relationship. This is the view from the entrance, so this kind of different screens, very much also influenced by this kind of ferry boat or summer iconography, graphics, highlighting important moments where different programs change. Details on the floors, like thresholds, changing programs. One of the bathrooms was, in fact, directly inspired by typical outdoor spaces on islands with the pebbles floors. A sun rising from the bottom floor to the top floor. And another house that we're just finishing, it's very recently built, is this one. It's called the Petralona House. So it's also very close to the Acropolis, very in the center. Here's the Parthenon up there. So this was the existing house in the plot. It's a very complex, weird, triangular plot, very dense. So the program had to double this existing ground floor. We decided after a lot of tests to do this kind of volume so that light could still penetrate the garden in the back, and also to give it a kind of curved roof in order for the sun to still be able to reach the garden from the top of the volume. And what's most interesting about this house is its structure. So there's no columns in the house. So basically this whole thing is hanging from above like a bridge. So what is gained is that the whole back of the house can be completely opened up towards the garden without any column inside. So the house was designed as a kind of reaction to the context, the different sides of the neighborhood, and also the design was fitted to different references or materials or atmospheres that were available or just desired. So every side was very different and pretty complex. This was the model of the design. With the street view here, and the curve that you saw in the back, the garden going all around. And this is one of the photos of the until recent situation. A lot of the materials were found, reclaimed from junkyards. A lot of it is handmade. Some of it is directly inspired by islands. So, for example, this is a window from an island. This is a balcony from an old house in Athens. This pot is a very typical thing you get, especially on islands. Also, it's important to realize that this kind of richness in color and texture and is something very typical in the old houses of Athens. Also, in terms of the interior, where everything plays a role, and in a way, there's no hierarchy. Everything is important.
I just want to go back to this one because this is the entrance of the house, and for us it took us a while to I mean, there is a lot of complexity because this is the first moment that the visitor reaches the house. For example, it took us a while to find the right handle, and then next to it there is this pot. So when you arrive to the house, there is a very nice welcoming smell from the flower, and then there is this pot from Skiros Island. So even though this is a very specific moment of the house, there is a lot of richness and a lot of thought that intensifies this rituality of getting into your private house. So it's a very, this is the way that we treat the whole spatial experience in the house.
There was a lot of objects and things and materials casted into the walls of the house as well. The back of the house, the wall that looks towards the Acropolis hill, was painted following figures from ancient pottery, athletes. And this is the concrete wall, exposed concrete wall that kind of cuts the house in two, or is actually what holds the house together. It's where the house is hanging from. So I think this is the tiles you saw next to the zebra wall on the entrance, but there's all these other things happening to it. So this is part of the exterior side towards the garden. It's not finished yet. And this is part of the interior. So it's in our mind. This project, for example, is also a little bit like an urban project. It's like a city, where you see this kind of building elevation in the middle, and in fact, there's a tree planted in the middle of the house. You can see it in this more later picture. So that's something that we are very interested in, or actually, it kind of happens on its own, where the projects work in different scales. Also here you see some of the reclaimed things, doors found on the street or in junkyards, and island details, like the shelves sticking out of the wall.
Yeah, this is the section, the section of the house. And while we were working on Petralona House, we had all these material samples, but also objects in front of us, and we thought that it's so interesting and so beautiful altogether, and we wanted to create another relationship between these objects. So we did this project, which it's called Totems, which is a list of the things that we use for Petralona House, and each of them refers to another condition. So the first one is what you encounter, what you see, the frontal side of the house, while the second one is the ground floor and the relationship to the garden, and the last one is the two upper floors. So what we did in this project, we wanted to emphasize that everything really matters. It doesn't matter if it's a structural element or if it's a plug or if it is a decorative element. Everything has equal importance to us. So with a lot of generosity and no prejudice, I was trying to learn this word. We did this project. Some zoom-ins. So you see the hose and then the tiles and the tiles from the floor. So actually some of them is actual material samples that the companies were sending us, or some others are from junkyards. So it didn't matter what is the scale or the value of the object. For us, everything was equally important, as I said before. And this is the last project. It's our participation in Chicago Biennale 2 years ago. It's called The Playfulness of the Real, where we present this duality between the realized project and also our urban project. So this is Flower Shop, the first built project that we did, in Heaven, Calabrita Cafe, and Theatre Square, Nadia in Faliro Pier, Georgia Apartment and Athens as an island, Nadia again in Athens by Hills, and then the Petralona House in Athens and Athens Ferry. And that's the last.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. Yeah.
Not too long. Is it okay?
Τώρα είναι.
Και 40, εντάξει.
All right, great. Thank you so much for a great talk, and it's fantastic to see your work. I hope everyone can hear me okay. So I think mostly, I'm sure the audience is eager to ask questions, and it's a real privilege to have you both here to present the work. I think one of the things I like a lot about your work and your approach is that there are many different ways in to the work, and I think that might be something interesting to talk a little bit about in terms of, at this point, there seems to be some repetition in the way that you approach the views of the city, the way that you're making collages. It's maybe not clear yet if there is a really prescribed method maybe in the work, that you're approaching everything always through a collage and then maybe a model comes. Maybe this is something good to talk to, and especially with the students in this sort of gearing up towards the end of the semester and thinking about their own work and a kind of process. That might be some way to talk about things. I think for me, I'm interested also, and as we talked about earlier today, we were sort of ahead of the audience. We had an hour together to talk a little bit about drawing and representation and the relationship of that to making things become real. And so maybe a little bit of just the collage and where, the projects, are they starting always from the making of collage?
Okay. Yes, something that actually we didn't mention in the talk is that before every project, there's a lot of observation and kind of obsessive recording of things, of elements found in the city. Or around us. So in time we have developed a kind of skill, I think, where these things take their place in a sequence of similar or not items, elements. This is a little bit how this last project Marianna showed you, the totems of materials. This is how it happened. It's a very characteristic process, I think, where sometimes we collect elements or pictures or notes about things that we know they're very interesting or very critical, and they haven't found their place yet, but then in a project suddenly they come together. So in a way, collage is indeed one of the methods that happen very early on. I wouldn't surely say that it's the first thing that happens. I think first comes sketches or notes of this kind of collections of ideas or objects that are relevant in every case of every project, where we bring them together, because it's all about these relationships, and this is what we always try to do, in fact, to create these kind of relationships given made up of usually banal or ordinary or valueless objects and things. So pretty much after that, after this kind of notes or lists, I think maybe, yes, collage is one of the things that comes first, because it's a tool that allows you to bring these objects together with the whole story they have behind them, to put them together and see what happens, to have a first view of that kind of relationship.
Yeah, actually, also I wanted to add that before we went back to Greece, we were working in a very big scale projects in MA and MBRTV and some other offices. So when we came back to Greece, we had to deal with mainly small scale projects, and for us, it was. We were very curious on how this will turn out, how exciting we are going to be about this. I'm saying this mainly to the students, because sometimes we have this anxiety of doing big things and big gestures and everything. But what we discover in Greece, and it becomes more intense in our work, is that everything, even if it's small scale, can be very complicated and very imaginative. And I think with the same enthusiasm as we do the urban projects, is like an object or a small scale.
Yeah, I think that's clear. I mean, it's wonderfully rich about the project too, that the idea that something as complex as a city could actually be easy in some ways relative to the small scale, right? And that this going in between those two things is quite interesting. So to think about the problem of designing the city to the spoon, if we think about those, right, or back and forth, but also a kind of. Do you think that there is a new, that through this you have defined, in speaking about the urban projects, maybe a new urbanism in your work? I don't know if you have a coined a term, or that there's something along that line. I think if we're, thinking about the city in the way that we look at these manifestos, I think Jimenez talks about it in the book, in the introduction, or in his description of the project, about the sort of manifestos for the past 2,000 years, or even the way we think about how architects have written about cities, right? Maybe we're at a moment where we're no longer, designing delirious cities for delirious people, or even generic cities for generic people, but somehow that through your work, you're making a kind of new urbanism. And I don't know, maybe it's not possible to answer the question at the moment, but it seems to me that you're working in this way, that it's always working on both scales, and through something very playful. I think this idea of two of your titles, Even Reality is Found, and then the kind of playfulness of the real, to me are critically important, and based in the context of Athens. And so, I mean, maybe you could talk a little bit more about that.
I think in the line of your thinking, I think what's important in the way we work to us is that we take reality very seriously. Yeah. And this works in a lot of on a lot of levels. So on one level, first of all, we're not addressing architects. Our work is not really addressing architects, it's addressing normal people. So to keep reality as part of the project is a way of communicating with the people and the simple people. Secondly, I think because of lack of means, we have to use whatever is available. So to place reality in the center of the project makes the project half done already from the beginning, right? And I forget what else it was, but
yeah, once there was an article written about our work, saying that we don't have to invent new utopias. That actually utopia is we can be the city that we already live, and how we deal with the existing city, and. In a way that interests us a lot, because actually a lot of our projects look utopian, because there are so many elements together. But if you really see the essence of the project, they are very much realizable in a way, not so.
So the point is not to have to propose new cities or new realities, but to take the existing reality and try to see it differently, or impose another way of seeing it or using it.
I think that's great. I mean, also it seems to me that there's this. I mean, I guess on one hand, I would just come back to the comment about the the work is not made for architects, made for normal. But I think architects, we also need to be inspired in projects, right? And so in a way, there's a kind of delight in the work in that. But I would also ask you about that. I mean, are there references? I mean, we see references to architects and to architectural history, maybe in the collage of the street to the sea, right? The kind of reference to Las Vegas and Venturi's. I think you can also talk about the history through that, or the sunshade project in Israel that reminds me, just in terms of colors, of Max Bill, for instance. Or, I mean, you don't present the work in that way, but is that at all part of it? I mean, you talk about surrealism, and then there are, of course, the references to other painters. But just what is the relationship to other architects, let's say, in the work? Do you think about that?
Absolutely. I think we're very aware, at least, of kind of classical architecture. Maybe we're not so interested in referring to very new things that's happening. But we are very, very aware of things that have been done, and our work is full of maybe hidden or not visible references. Because what's important to us is not the references per se, but the new relationships, or relationships established between many different references. In a way, we don't try to do something new. We just try to work maybe in a new way with things that are already known or available. I don't know if it's a conscious decision to not show or not to keep the references visible. I'm not sure about that.
Yeah, I mean, it's quite complicated because, for example, for each project, we always start with a cloud of references around the drawing, and then we say this from there, this one from there, and then we start eliminating. Like from Petralona, there are a lot of references in this house, and we can talk about this for hours. For example, the red garage door to the house. It's actually a collage of an island door that we found. It's in a junkyard, and then it's Frank Lloyd Wright screens on top of it, and then it's the flags that we use in all our projects to show this celebration of daily life. So. Yeah,
so
references
fact,
are extremely different, and especially in our areas, I mean, with Pinterest and all this, internet thing, we really have to be aware of what we are using. So, yeah.
So there's a lot of references, but like Marianna said, there's so much transformation happening, or exactly because there's so many, or they're going through a process, a very long process of transformation because of what's actually available and what you can do and all that. In the end, I think you don't even see, and we don't even remember, we don't even recognize what's there. I mean, you just mentioned the gate example, which is a mix of 4 or 5 different references. You don't even see it. We don't even see it. That's interesting when it happens, because it becomes its own thing. And also, each part kind of transforms the part next to it, because it's never standing on its own. That was also the story with Nadia apartment, with all those structures, because I don't remember anymore what everything is built on.
That's interesting. Okay, maybe we can open it up. Are there any questions? Someone must have a question. Always takes a minute or two. Yeah, I want here.
Thank you so much for the lecture. It was really, really great, especially for me, the context of your work, because obviously here in the US or even Europe, when we speak about Greece, we speak about like austerity and we like all these measures, and it shows what architecture can do given like limited resources and given this type of context. But my question is, it seems that that's like a really strong driver for your work that was done in Greece, like this idea that we don't have a lot of money to do architecture, or we don't have a lot of, like, the lack of resources is very, like, and my question is would you do the same type of projects if you had more resources? or is this the type of projects that you would do if you don't? You know, so does that make sense? Sorry.
Kind of, yes.
So it's basically like, is your project driven by the fact that you don't have the resources to do them, or is it would you do the same even if you were like given like the crazy budgets or whatever?
Well, we have to be more imaginative with the fact that there is no budget in our project, but I think that we would do the same thing. All this juxtaposition of low and high value things, it's something that we find very interesting in architecture, and also the density of things that happen together. So I think we would do the same.
I think if we had more resources, we would just be faster. Because now we just we have to spend much more time to make what we want to achieve what we want to achieve. I think that's the biggest difference. So that actually costs.
Yeah, let's say that our life could be much easier if we had the budget to do it. But the architecture would be
the same.
The same, yes.
The reason why I ask is because in other European countries that have had problems with like Portugal or Spain, you see like very similar work that kind of comes out, like this kind of like joyousness in like not or thinking about architecture in new ways because there is or there isn't the resources to do it. So as architects, do you think that the market or our relationship to the market is really influencing the work that we're doing, and like even through the representation, or is the representation like just a sign of the times of what people are interested in?
No, Hilary, do you want to answer? I don't know what the answer to that question is. I'm sure it influences, but it depends on who you are and how you deal with it, right? I think everybody's reality has its own limitations, though. I mean, whatever context, we very often talk with friends operating in Germany or here, and even if you're in New York, which is not the place of austerity, you have all these other constraints. So it's kind of similar. Everybody has their own constraints.
But it's interesting because now that we are in New York, because Delirious New York is a very very interesting, very influential to our work. I mean, here everything works properly, while in Athens it doesn't. But this doesn't matter because the manifesto. I mean, we are trying to do something similar for our city, even though it's not well functioned, let's say.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Thank you very much for the presentation today. It was wonderful. Just a question about the representation you guys are using, and although this is a presentation, it's probably curated. I saw probably one diagram out of all the things you showed us, and even that had arrows to become a diagram, basically. So my question is not collage as just a way of work, but collage as representation regarding your statement as architecture, not for architects, for people. Do you feel that the fact that collage gives you an interpretive edge, it doesn't, diagrams maybe give you steps or instructions, but collage as an ability to be interpreted, does that give you an ability to relate to people better than you would have if you just use the, for example, if instead of the newspaper we saw the collages, we saw the diagrams of your work, do you think that collage gives you something more in terms to work with?
I think so, yes. On one hand, collage allows reality to enter, I think, more strongly, because then you can, because in a way diagrams and other representations are more exclusive. Collage, to me, is one of the most inclusive methods, right? It's possible to bring things and keep them there in their full spectrum, like they carry their whole world with them. Photography does, right? Images do. Images, I think, are the most easy tool to communicate with normal people, let's say, non-architects. I mean, we are trained to read drawings and all that, but not everybody is. At least in Athens, for example, our experience with clients has been such that we realized that it's not only clients, even assistants, constructors. Sometimes constructors have done crazy mistakes because they can't even understand the concept of scale in drawings, right? So images is kind of more immediate always. Collage is a kind of image that brings a lot of information, or is very inclusive.
But like, do you see it even helping you in constructing these imaginaries? Because you have these found situations, and instead of like, you have to construct something, you have to imagine a new condition for it. So you're seeing collage as maybe the easier way to do that.
Yeah.
Thank you. Representations in newspapers was an important part of your presentation, but I wonder if that's ever worked against you. Like, has the media ever misrepresented your projects or your intentions?
Yes. Yes, a lot of times we have been attacked. Actually, the Faliro peer competition that we won, because it was a very, very important project, it was an open competition. We've been so badly attacked from some citizens that didn't want these projects, for example, to happen. They preferred the wavy prizes instead. There's been so much attack, especially on the internet, which is so much easier, obviously. There has been people collaging on top of our images and ridiculing the project. There's been so bad talk. I mean, it has been very emotional, in fact, very heartbreaking sometimes, the things that get written or said. But on the other hand, you kind of have to ignore that. It's part of the reality.
I don't speak Greek, but did the articles you show, were they positive?
The articles we show today. Yeah, I think you would understand the negative ones
if you saw them.
Yeah.
But I think there's something about some of the collages and a couple of the projects that you didn't show that I know of your work that I really like a lot and admire. I think that there is this incredible intent about working through collage that is about making something real. It's not about leaving it suspended in this kind of other world. I mean, that's something I'm somewhat interested in our office, that maybe it's not exactly a total translation, that there's something for surprise. But you work hard, I think, at still the surprise in the architecture when you actually come to it. So I think, if anything, perhaps the reading of the collages for the Pier project, they're not complete, right? That there is still the surprise yet to come, and that's always something hard for a general audience to yet imagine, right? That the idea of imagination is very hard for someone not working in the kind of visual realm and finding themselves in that all the time, right, to leap. So in any case, I mean, I think also for me, I was wondering a little bit about the images of the collages when they come to the city. And you have so many of them, it's remarkable. And to think about the way in which you can start to collect those, almost that they become an atlas of sorts. I was thinking a little bit about, from postcard to atlas, are there other sort of forms that the work takes on? And I was kind of curious about, could you imagine doing these collages in other cities? Or is that just something, have you thought about that? Is that something you would want to do? I'm curious if that
actually
translates.
we do almost the same. We do the same thing for the Ljubljana Biennale that we are participating this year, and actually it came. We are doing the same thing for an ex-mining city in Slovenia. We didn't intend to do it, but it came out very naturally. Actually, we do exactly the same thing. We are trying to reveal the hidden aspects of the city through a series of representations that they were already there.
Yeah, we're definitely interested because by doing it, you also kind of realize what's unique about Athens again. So all these kind of exercises, I think, refresh and mobilize your viewing
That's great.
of things.
Yeah, but in a way that we think that it's like an obligation from our part, from us being young architects, and we think that that should happen almost in every city, let's say, if possible, from other architects as well, to do the same for their cities. That we will have such a interesting urban condition.
Documentation.
Yeah.
That's interesting. I think, I mean, that is maybe a little bit of a difference between just, sort of generationally speaking, to American architects that don't often engage in the city. I mean, with the exception of people working in cities, of course. But I think if you're not in a city, you tend not to think of that, or even the education hasn't been about putting that forward. So for me, that's always been a kind of, a distinction between a European and an American education, let's say. I think, of course, in the context of globalization, and as you're, describing the use of internet and so on, we can't escape those things. So that, I think, has shifted somewhat, but in the kind of making of that. So maybe we'll take one more question. Yeah.
I, especially in seeing the Petra House and the cast or the carvings that you had into the walls for like small shelves, and then looking at the scale of the house, and then moving to the scale of Athens as a whole, and how you carved into basically almost a concrete block is how it seemed like it was described, with these like green oasis and public spaces. I'm really curious how you both imagine these small insertions starting to work to activate public spaces through planning and phasing over time. So like solid versus void over time.
What do you mean over time?
Like how a single insertion can be planned and then more will be added at a later date.
Mm-hmm. I think it's interesting to think about phasing in a lot of those projects, and actually it makes more sense to think of it in phases in some cases, because it's such a complex condition. When you put the city at the center of a project, you have to always remember that it's such an organic process. So maybe it makes more sense to think of it happening in time. There's been some projects where the process and the phasing has been more important, but not in the examples we showed you today, I'm afraid.
So why are you asking? What is can you explain again? Why is it important, the phasing, in terms of how realized it's a project? So I didn't get it. Why are you asking this?
I was just interested in, because you see the wall that has these like cuts and carvings from the Petra House. So you like cast into that main concrete wall. And that all happens at one time, versus like looking at the scale of like the entire city and the cuts and voids. I was just curious if you imagine that all happening at once, or like if it happens like those insertions over.
But actually, the Petralona wall it's not happening in one phase. I mean, we establish let's say the basic elements, but then we have also nature that is captivating that will captivate, let's say, the wall itself. So the whole thing will change in a few years, and I think that's what we are trying to do in our project. We specify some elements, and then we let the other things happen spontaneously. It's very, I don't know.
It wouldn't be realistic to think of things happening at once. It would be utopian, and we're a bit against that. So happening in phases makes more sense.
Or, for example, for the theater square, we mainly had the tall towers, the tall trees, the cypress trees in the entrances, and then this grid of palm trees. But then all the density of nature in the human scale can happen during a period of time. Yeah.
One last question. Okay. Well, thank you very much.
Okay.
Oh, yeah. Was there one more or no?
Yeah.
Okay.
Hi. Going back to representation, it's really interesting that the projects seem to begin and end with images. So I'm curious, what is the role of drawings in your practice? Do you even do them?
Do you know AutoCAD?
I like drawings.
Somehow, and also the process doesn't really allow you to draw. When you find, you can't really draw a found door.
No, there's a lot of drawing happening, and there's a lot of precision taken into account. And what's interesting to us is that these images that you see actually carry the drawing behind. So everything is very calculated in drawing. But in a way, I think in talks like this, like lectures, I think it's more efficient with time if we don't show drawings, because drawings, I think, need more explanation while you can go through pictures more fast. I think it's a very practical thing of the talk. But I always find it very amusing to think of the drawings that are happening that nobody sees. Or also, I find it amusing to look at pictures and remember the drawings that led to those pictures. I can see the drawing in the picture. That's very interesting in the process.
That's it. All right. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much.
I'm sure you're going to